Here we go live. So welcome everyone. Welcome to Meshery Development Meeting. Today is December 14. And with that, let's follow our weekly tradition to introduce newcomers. So if you haven't introduced to the community yet, grab your spot and unmute yourself and feel free to introduce yourself. And let's start with Maninder this time.
Hello.
Hey.
My name is Maninder. Actually, I have joined second time this meet. I'm looking for some open source contribution and I found this community very exciting. So that's why I have joined here.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Maninder.
Yes.
So
nice.
I see.
You find the meeting exciting. And also, I'm just assuming like very funny, right? Because there's just different jokes that go around. Those could only naturally be very funny. I'll just assume that that's the case. That's just okay. Yeah, terrible jokes. Anyway, great, Karif. I didn't mean to interrupt. Maninder, I'm glad you're on the call. I wanted to let's put an item down actually to follow up with you to make sure that you get your hands dirty. You get your hands on something, and I think that's maybe some Golang. Is that what you're looking to dig into?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Looking into Golang development.
Very good. All right, I got a couple ideas that you might find interesting. So that's great.
Sure.
That's great, Maninder. Thank you for your introduction. So I see a couple of more new names in the chat. Aryan, Hardik, or Amit. Anyone would like to go and introduce?
Hey, is my voice audible?
Yep, it is.
I'm Hardik Singh. I'm currently a dev at Lumos Labs, and I love development. So I just wanted to contribute to open source, and this is my second contribution to open source, and I wanted to check the community and this. I wanted to check and look how and I contribute more into the Meshery development.
Awesome. I didn't realize we were under evaluation today, but I promise to be on my best behavior. Hardik, it's nice to have you. Hardik, are you the same Hardik that is into user experience design a little bit?
Yeah, I am comfortable with React, and I'm also into the UI UX development. So yeah.
Nice. All right. So that's a Mr. Hardik Singh, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. I wouldn't know from your Zoom name. Do you mind updating that for us, please? Pretty please. With sugar on top. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Hardik. Next up, we have Amit or Aryan.
Hello, I'm Amit, and I have been in meeting several times, and currently I'm working on improving error logs, which is assigned to me by Parnav Singh.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Amit.
Thank you so much.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Aryan, you are.
Yeah, so it's my first time in the meet, and I'm like beginner with Go, and I was trying to find some projects to contribute in Golang. So just exploring for now. But yeah, I am interested in contributing.
Yeah, thank you, Aryan. We'll be discussing many Golang stuff here. So hope you will enjoy and grab some stuff. So yeah, I guess we have covered all the introduction of newcomers. So with that, let's start with the agenda item. So we have first on the spot Meshery Playground by Lee. So Lee would like to take over.
Yeah, sure. I shouldn't have put this first, I don't think, but so great. So there's a lot of you that have been working on getting a deployment of Meshery. A particular sort of a particular Meshery personality deployed. So a particular type of Meshery deployment that hopefully a lot of different people can come and explore and check out. So some of you have been on to Meshery.io. I suspect all of you have. I would be dumbfounded if you haven't. One of the links at the top of the site is this link to Playground. And there's some big hopes for what this might be. So there is a site right now that's very simple. A number of you have contributed to. It just has a sign up form, basically, a description of what we want it to be and to sign up. As a matter of fact, if anyone is on the call right now and is looking for an easy contribution, can you just remove this screenshot? It's not really additive. It'd be nice if this form is the main call to action. It'd be nice if just the form was the thing. But the rest of the description is pretty accurate. What we want to do is make it easier for people to use Meshery. But more than that, much more than that, like come to understand many of the other or all of the other CNCF projects. And then well beyond that, really any like workloads that run on Kubernetes. And so there will be a hosted instance of Meshery, Meshery Playground, not too dissimilar from something like playwithdocker.com. Kind of like this, where you might be able to go in, sign in, and get, just like you would have access to a Docker instance here, that you would have access to a Meshery instance. The Docker instance, I don't know. I'm assuming they probably discourage Bitcoin mining or sending thousands and thousands of emails or from people doing nefarious things. And so to the same extent, when the Meshery Playground is up, it will also have some, it will be limited in the exposure of all of its capabilities so that people aren't doing necessarily naughty things. Let me open up a new private window. So there is an early deployment of Meshery Playground in which you should all go get signed up and come try it. We're going to probably announce it fairly broadly here shortly. Just in advance of that announcement going out, it would be helpful for all of you to go give it a try. So in order to do that, go to play.meshery.io, sign up, and then we'll make sure that your account gets enabled with access to a publicly running Meshery, to the Meshery Playground. You'll know that you're in the playground when you see this at the bottom. I won't go through the rest of the playground. I'll let you explore, but I wanted to make sure we called that out today. Outside of, I guess, this call to action, there are, well, like I said, a bunch of you that are on the call that have worked on getting this going. Harkarat, I think you might be one of the last people to touch this today. Anything that you'd like to say about the playground?
Yeah, so Playground would be like, we would be releasing it like pretty soon, like it's in beta. So there were some functionalities which we are disabling, and there's like a PR on Meshery, so where we disable some of the functionalities, like limiting the user not to access those things. Yeah, that's pretty much about Playground, and that's
Yeah.
what is it like.
Yeah.
So just to confirm
Additionally,
then.
yeah, may I? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
please.
Addition to what Harkirat said, like most likely you will be new user to the mesh map while you are trying the playground. So you are most likely to see a sign up form if you haven't already done, and there would be a process of approval of your account, and once you're ready to just jump on and try the mesh map and designer and playground stuff, then you will just receive an email, confirming with your email confirmation, and then I think you might be ready to play with it, right? Kay?
Yeah, that's right. And actually, Harkarat also pointed out, I think, one of the things that I was trying to highlight is that, so, getting Kubernetes going can sometimes be a challenge. Getting Meshery up and running can sometimes be a challenge. We've tried really hard as a project to make it super easy to get Meshery going. It's like you can do it in a single command. You can download Meshery, get the CLI, get all the containers, have it start up, and then have your browser open up all in one command. That's pretty neat. It doesn't always happen like that for people, but we try to make it as easy as possible. Even then, sometimes people stumble along the way as they try to get Meshery stood up and start to use it. So consequently, that's in part why the playground is being hosted, to just make that easier. It's also the intention that we would go to each of the other projects that are represented. So Kubernetes and just basically all of the CNCF projects, you'll be able to go in here and configure a deployment of any of those projects visually. And as a matter of fact, if multiple people are in there, potentially collaboratively as well at some point, which is going to be neat. Then you can export your designs, you can deploy your designs, but to Harkarat's point, in order to help ensure that like Lee doesn't go in there and mess up your design or like mess up your Kubernetes cluster, this particular Meshery deployment is not connected to a Kubernetes instance, so that people can't spin up workloads in containers that would either A, cost a lot, or B, do something naughty. So folks like Harkarat had been working to help ensure, like, I don't know if you can see the cursor on my screen. So, it changes to a hand, changes to a pointer. When you get to an area that is intentionally disabled, you'll see this cancellation sign or no access sign, whatever that means. And so right now, like Harkarat, I think, is tying off. He'll make it the same case here so that users don't sort of exit that mode. Because if they exit that mode, then they might connect to Kubernetes cluster. And if they connect to cluster, they might, I don't know, sort of, they'll get into a bad situation. So anyway, that's what the playground is about. Go sign up, go give it a try. It should be available for everybody very shortly. Any questions or comments on that? Over here, we're going to do a small feature request. And then the next topic, though, is nobody had questions, right? Comments? Well, the next topic, actually, maybe I'll move it down below. It was going to be Uzair, who's been here for quite some time in the community. He's been working on a whole pretty exciting new area. And if he's able to join, he'll speak to it. Otherwise, maybe I'll speak to it later. But thanks, Scarf.
Yeah, so next up we have topic by Antoinette on review Node.js version for V16 and V18. So Antoinette, would like to share your screen?
Yes, so just recently, about last week, I had started using the NVM to manage different versions of Node.js. And so I downloaded after I installed the latest version, which is 19, and by building the packages on the UV project, it was working fine until just the other day. I noticed that it kept coming up with the same error messages. So I also use the 18 as well. It was actually fine at first, but then now I'm reverting back to using 16. So even though some of the projects are all using 16, but Meshery specifically, we're using 18 development wise. However, for the Docker files, we're still using 16, I believe. So I just want to point this out because we have other people who are coming in, contributing, and are having to have that issue with trying to figure out which Node.js version that we're using, and we also need to point it out on the the contributor guide, because on the contributor guide it's stating that we're on 14. So we don't have that specific information to guide a newcomer. And also we just need to check to make sure which version that we would like to stay on. And for the time being, we'll probably need to stay on 16 and just avoid 18 and 19 for the time being. Does anybody have any question, comment, feedback, would like to add on to it?
I have a comment. In the UI folder, we have an .npmrc file. So we do have information in the UI contributing guide to use the npm use command. So that should set everyone, but that's for development. So maybe we need to unify like this kind of information across different documentations or different use cases or purposes, right?
Right, and I agree with that. But one thing I do want to add on to it, the reason why I mentioned this was because about a couple of weeks ago or so, I also mentioned about using version 18, and we actually pinned the version to the to our NVM RC and the UE project. So we would actually need to change that back to 16, and then just update the document for development purpose, but also for production. But since we already using production, that doesn't matter. For locally, we just need to make sure and help everybody know that what version are we on. So, but I agree with what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. So which docs should we update like explicitly? Maybe we should make some kind of guidelines whenever there's a version change. What are the areas we need to consistently update so that it's just easier for everyone? Like if let's say in the future we need to downgrade or modify the version across everywhere, like if we can kind of like some lightweight document that can serve as a guideline, like where we need to do these upgrades, because when we fixed it, we modified the Docker file, also the package, some npm scripts in the UI folder, and also I believe there's like instructions in the UI contributing guide. So what's missing? Like is there a specific file or a list of files we should upgrade, or like if we're going to 16, I mean I think that's fine. I think that was the workaround. I don't remember which version we ended up using on these other areas though. I guess it was 16 because there was problems with 18, and there was some allegedly the issue with the OpenSSL encryption problem was fixed, but I don't think it was still like part of like a general availability release for Node. So that's why I do agree we should keep using 16.
By the way, internet. Yeah, I had a question regarding it. Like whenever you are trying to build a Meshery UI and you are getting into the failed situation, like are you using the make scripts to build it, or you are using some node script of your own, like seeing through package.json and trying out the commands to build from there?
I do both. That's how I ended up finding out that 19 wasn't working directly. And so whenever I submitted a PR, I also added a check for 19, but
And
that was
17.
before, that was before I saw yesterday and the other day that it wasn't working at all, and I have to go back to 16. So yeah, I mean, we already have to check, and so like I said, I did both, and so I ended up just pinning mine to 16 and then just use the make script. So
yeah, great. Like if it is working with 16, it's fine. Like we still need to check in with 18, 17, and 19 for the time being. Like for the 18 and 17 versions, if you run the script with make build, because what make command does is it first checks out your node version, which version you're using, and based on it will add the flag or deny the flag. And that's how you don't come in situation where you don't come in situations where you are with some faulty state or your build script fails. So that's why this check is there. So I see you have added an entry for 19 also, but yeah, I don't know why with 19 it doesn't work. So I suspect like I mean, I'm pretty hopeful that with 18 and 17 it should be working, and with 19 there may be some breaking change once again. So I have least information about the version 19 and what's it's proposing. So I might give attention to this issue, and I'll probably come back to you with a fix or something. So for now, like yeah, go with 16, and in the nvm rc file we suggest to use version 18 right now. But the version 19 is the latest trend or latest version published by them. So I'll see through the code once again and see if there is some problem here and there which is blocking us.
I'd like to add that even if, let's talk about 18, so you could have a problem because it depends on your machine, what exact version you're using. So when you run the command nvm use or nvm install like that, if in the current file, let's say the UI folder, there's an nvm rc file, it'll read that. It'll take the exact version with major, minor, and patch, considering that the explicit version. So even if we run, let's say in the CI runs, like we don't use the nvmrc file. So then we rely on what version whenever it uses the npm cache, or like the command used to grab or to change the version.
Currently the make script accounts for all these things. Like it has all the conditions to get to know like which version you are, like which binary node binary version you have tried to run with. So
but the CI runs use the make command? I don't think so, at least not all of them.
Yeah, they use not all of them, but I think as far as I know, the major ones like build UI and server, most of them use make command. There is some underlying problems with the dependencies for the Next.js. We haven't gone through the root issues yet with that in that regard. So that was using v16, but since it was the build was fine, so we for temporarily remove the focus from there. So
I guess the outliers are the test CI jobs, right? That do not use the make file, for example.
Yeah, I mean the outliner is always use make command for building or doing anything, so that it is consistent everywhere.
So just in conclusion, we should update all the docs and also look for that consistency across any flows, whether they're manual driven or CI driven.
Yeah.
Make.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we can continue the discussion over this in Slack. So moving on to next topic by Pranav, add support to logout remote providers. Pranav, would like to share your screen?
Yes, I'm there. Hopefully my screen is visible. And so there was a recent ask, like when let me first show you quickly what problem was. The problem was that the recent ask and the problem was related to logging out a user, in which whenever any user was trying to kill their session, like they were not able to do so, as in like even though they were sent back to provider UI, but they were actually they were still in the same user account. And before I will the solution is already merged, but I will give you a little bit of context of what these things are. First of all, like what remote provider is like. Meshery supports different kinds of remote providers, and these remote provider basically helps to enhance the overall functionality of Meshery, wherein these remote provider brings in their own different set of features, whether it's RBAC or it's your performance tests being persisted, or your performance profiles, or your service mesh patterns, your applications, your Helm charts, and other things. So remote provider in nutshell is this, and you might want to connect to a remote provider, or you might want to use a local provider. Remote provider is the one which we are talking about right now. So whenever you use a remote provider, you usually use your credentials, and those credentials are used to uniquely identify you inside of a Meshery session. So when we recently upgraded a little bit of architecture of Meshery, in which we added identity inside of Meshery, we add identity inside of the remote provider, where you can use your own email ID and password to log inside of Meshery. Then there was a recent enhancement which was required inside of logout feature, wherein after logging out your session from Meshery, there should be a logging out of session from the remote provider as well. So I did add that feature. It's already merged. So now whenever you go to your Meshery instance and you try to log yourself out, and you connect to your remote provider, then it will give you the exact same options which it used to give earlier. That is, use a different credential to log inside again. So that thing is already merged and it's released, so you can check that out. So any questions? Can I do this?
So comments or feedback for Pranav?
That's all. Yeah. From my side.
Yeah, thank you, Pranav. Moving on to next item, we have a couple of items by Ashish. So Ashish, would like to go through all the items?
Okay. So the first item is about the workflow for adding Meshery integrations on Layer 5 website. So if you'll go on Layer 5's website, you'll find a bunch of you'll find all the projects that we integrate to. So over here you'll find, and when you click on these each of these projects, you can see like things like what are the features, what's the overview of those projects and all. And as we go to consume all of these cloud, basically all the projects from the cloud native ecosystem. The thing is that there is a central spreadsheet that we have. The spreadsheet is called Meshery integration spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet is the source of truth for two things: Meshery server, which consumes items from this spreadsheet, so that basically the designer that was just shown to you in the playground, that designer will have components from each of these projects. So you'll find things like all the resources, custom resources that Argo provides, AWS, AKS. So all the things, all of the rows that we have over here, you would be able to configure each of these resources from the playground and create a design, and then you can deploy that design. So that's one use case of the spreadsheet. The other use case is to show it on the Layer 5 website. So there was a workflow, and that still exists. The workflow's job was to treat this spreadsheet as a source of truth, and then at a nightly basis, I guess there's a cron job. So in every 24 hours, it generates those components. So when I say the word component, think about each of these custom resources from each of these projects. So if Argo has like a rollout resource, then that's a component. And the reason I'm using the word component is because like a component, you can drag and drop it onto the canvas, and then you can fill the RGSF form and configure it, and so on and so forth. So basically the same kind of a workflow that was actually from where Meshery server was sourcing its components. The same kind of workflow was being used to generate markdown files, because this thing that you see is actually generated sourced from a markdown file inside of layer 5 repository. And I did add the workflow yesterday, but I think there were some bugs over here which caused the UI build to fail. And so, for example, a working example of this is how the markdown is supposed to look like. And I'm just seeing some of the comments from Nikhil, who's a maintainer here, and he has I didn't get the time to go through all of these comments just yet, but yeah, so here he has pointed out what are all the issues with the markdown that was generated by the workflow. There were already few markdowns that were generated, and due to those, you are still able to see these things on the website. But yeah, the markdown that was generated via the workflow, that was generated around a few hours ago, I guess. So if I like open any of these randomly, so this commit that you see over here, this is 23 hours ago. So yeah, this is there is some syntax. There are some syntax issues over here. So I'll be solving those by today, so that the workflow works and everything. And although I do see some of the commits over here, some of them, some recent commits. So I don't like Uzair has committed over here. So I don't know if there was some. I guess these are manually changed. Uzair, did you change the?
He isn't on the call and he didn't update this site. There is potentially something with the workflow that maybe using his.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So okay. So I'll be going through what the syntax problems are in this workflow, which is causing the build to break. And yeah, the workflow is almost complete. I'll just make those changes and then we're good to go. And the whole process of updating the website would be automated from the spreadsheet. So that was about the first issue. If anyone has any.
Yeah, I do. Actually, it's a good thing to pause for a moment just to make sure people who have questions can ask them. I'll add just a little more context to this. This long list of integrations is quite central to Meshery's capability to manage cloud native infrastructure. This is a list of the infrastructure that it'll manage. Ashish, if you don't mind, if you were to navigate to meshery.io/integrations, there is that same list in the spreadsheet. Is also, not only is it being published on Layer 5 IO, which is an open source website that that more people have contributed to than to Meshery, which is at least to the main Meshery repo. Which is surprising. Anyway, in a similar fashion, there will be an automated workflow that publishes from that spreadsheet to this site as well. One of the ways in which a few of the contributors, Ganganpreet, Krishna, and Kamal, have helped create this page in this 3JS nice visualization. This will be updated as well on a routine basis. So too, ultimately, will docs.meshery.io be updated with the same information. So that's nice that there's some of the docs are automated. And actually, if Subedi is on the call, I think he has a topic later to talk about how Meshery CLI and all of its docs are quite automated as well, or self-documenting. So anyway, that was just a little more context about the usefulness, the utility of that spreadsheet, and how it is that that information is being propagated, used inside of Meshery software, and then being propagated to a couple of different sites. By the way, side note for dark mode here, or no, so Nitish, but that's the deal. I thought we had a dark mode bug, but yeah, if you switch to dark mode real fast, just wanted to confirm that the Meshery logo, all right, cool. Anybody have comments or questions about the spreadsheet? Like, by the way, an area of open need is assistance inside of that sheet, helping categorize and document each of these integrations, that's a great place to start and to digest what Meshery is doing. So just signal if you're interested. By the way, since I'm speaking for a moment, I'll say Karuna and Siddhi. Will the two of you please add your last names in Zoom? Pretty please. I'll ask one more time in the Slack chat, which you might not have seen. And after that, I'll politely excuse you from the call. Thanks. Good. Yeah, please continue. Ashish.
Okay.
I had one question. Are these like data, are they directly fetched from the Excel sheet, or like, how are we like doing that? Like, how are the data coming from?
Yes, the data is coming from the Excel sheet.
So like we use with the help of Excel API, like Sheets API, we are fetching the data.
No, no, we're not using the Sheets API to make things more generic, because the source of truth can change tomorrow. So the utility that we have, it just takes a URL and it expects a CSV file to get downloaded. So it can be because we didn't want to have like exclusively be tied to Google Sheets or any particular API. So we just generate a CSV public facing CSV download URI from here, and then we give it to the workflow. It just downloads this whole Excel sheet as a CSV file, and then from there it generates the markdowns.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so the next topic is I guess I'll talk about it. I'll put this at the end. So if I don't, because it's not that urgent, so I'll just move on to my next item, because I see other people have things to talk about as well. So to give a little bit of context, let me go to the Meshery channel, Slack channel. So there was a bug reported by a user, Chen Lin. I don't think he is on the call. Let me check. Yeah, he's not on the call. So he was trying to install Linkerd, and there were some issues, and these were actually closely related to the failing tests that we had in Linkerd for a long while. And then I was okay. So when I went ahead and checked the reason for that, the reason was that Linkerd used to use so if you go to their Helm repo, there are a bunch of charts they have. So for each of the plugins, you'll find a chart, and there are earlier they used to use the Linkerd 2 chart, but now they have deprecated that, and now they use two Helm charts separately. So even if you go into the websites and you look at the manual installation ways, there are two charts. First, you need to deploy the CRD chart, and then you need to deploy the and then you need to deploy the Linkerd chart. So what my change has done is that I have I've used the new charts and deprecated the older charts. The only consequence of that is, which is a known issue. I haven't reported that as an issue, but it's at the back of my head. But I think I should really write it down as an issue. Is Linkerd has specified the Cube version 1.21, I guess it was. So if you try to install Meshery, if you try to install Linkerd on anything above 1.21, the way to do that is using the Linkerd CRDs and the Linkerd Helm chart. If you try to do it below 1.21, so 1.20, 1. And anything prior to that, the way is the Linkerd 2 Helm chart. So in the adapter, I haven't created that issue, but I'll do that just on the call after this, after my presentation. And that thing is to have that kind of a deprecated support. I think we should have support deploying it on 1.20, because if someone has an older Kubernetes cluster and they try to deploy it, we should technically support that. So what I'll be doing is there would be some extra steps required to check the Kubernetes version, and based on that use different installation methods. Right now, if you have if your cluster is 1.21 and above, you can install. So for example, if I go over, so so right now, if I look at if I have any Linkerd resources, I don't have any. And so if I go over to, let's say, wait a sec, if I go over here, so if you go into the lifecycle page, this is the like you can use Meshery designer, mesh map designer, or you can use Meshery's design configurator, which use underlying same mechanism, but mesh maps designer is a bit more nuanced and sophisticated. So that way, that's what we call meshops version 2, because that's the later method, that's more configurable method. But this is the previous method that we use, and this is the most simplest if you want to just get started with things. So you can select your namespace. So like if I select Linkerd system namespace and I click on deploy, earlier this deploy used to fail. Now it won't fail. Another thing that's quick to note is that you just saw an operation executing, but an event wasn't propagated over here. So that was also in my agenda item, but I have also moved that below. So we would be using cloud events. Cloud events provides a specification, and it also provides a Go SDK for implementing eventing, good eventing system, and how the structure of those events is going to look like. So right now we already have an eventing system, but that's not really sophisticated. So for example, previously I had installed Linkerd, and then I had removed it, and this thing, like right now you don't even see timestamps and all. So these things would be upgraded to the new eventing system, which is the cloud events, and it's still under progress, so I didn't put it on the agenda items. So yeah, if I now go back and see, look at the CRDs, so you get all the Kubernetes. So the first Helm chart installed these CRDs, which was one of the issues that the user was facing, that he said that the CRDs weren't installed, and that was actually true. The Linkerd 2 Helm chart did not have the CRD, so that was putting everything. So that was basically the Linkerd pods were going in a crash loop back off because some prerequisites were not met. And now the tests that we run to check these things are also all passing. So these tests are, all of these tests mostly run on Kubernetes version 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5. So of course they would be passing. And this is reflected in the compatibility matrix. So all the tests that we run over here, these are end-to-end tests. And so in these end-to-end tests try to take a design.
Sorry, time check though. Like we've
okay, yeah. So
how do people deploy a specific version of Linkerd?
Yeah. So if you want to deploy a specific version of Linkerd, then you can't do it from the meshops v1 method. Either a preferred way is to use design configurator, which is over here. So if you want to create design, you can select Linkerd from here. You can select Linkerd mesh, and here you have your option to choose any version. So if I want to select, like, let's say stable 10.1, and then I can provide the name of my Linkerd deployment. So let's say Linkerd 2, and here I can say what namespace I want to deploy it in. So yeah, and after doing this is going to, okay, so I guess this is a bug over here because this design is not being filled. But yeah, I doing it with mesh map is actually a little bit easier and a little bit more intuitive. Here you'll be what actually happens is that it generates a YAML file for you when you fill these fields. But I guess this count as a bug because it's not doing it for me right now. Yeah. So but if I log out and I come back because my mesh map session was expired. So if I log back in, and I can quickly show you. Just give me a second. So yeah, so if I go to designer, over here I would see Linkerd, and from here, let's say I pick a particular version. Let's say I pick Edge, I don't know, 21.1.4, and then I can pick Linkerd mesh from here, and then I can give it a name, specify a particular namespace, and yeah, there's there are some validation issues right now, and but yeah, and then you can deploy it from over here. So yeah, you can pick a version from over here, or you can, if you're using design configurator, the earlier thing that I showed you. But if you're only using meshops v1, that is this plain UI, here the latest version of Linkerd is installed.
So any quick comments or feedback for Ashish? I guess not. So we can move to next item. So next item is by Udit on fixed tooltips in configuration. So Udit would like to share.
Yeah, just a second. Yes, so the issue was that at some tabs there was no tooltip.
So I just basically edit everywhere it was necessary. And also I created one tooltip button, which you can reuse again and again. So I think this is very straightforward PR. I think you said you wanted some feedback or some review of it. Is there any review or feedback for me on this?
Cool. And Gaurav, that might be, I'm assuming that's for you, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, go. I think you mentioned that you wanted to pick some.
Yeah, I was just suggesting it to have the tooltip component that you made, to add it in utils and use it as a global component. So I think you have already addressed that thing.
Yes.
So we are good to go and merge this PR.
Okay, sure. And that's like pretty much it. Is there anything else
No.
on this PR? Okay.
Other than just good work. Nice job.
Thank you, Udit. So next up, we have an issue regarding Cypress by Abhi, Mario, or I can share.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. So just 1 minute. Yes, so this issue is regarding the proxy setup in the Meshery UI. Like there is a, I mean, this is getting in my way. Just let me close it. So we have an issue here, which actually, my God. Okay, so what we were using Cypress 9 before. So what it has is like it was not able to log in with the none provider. So there is two provider right now that we support, and there can be multiple providers that we may support. So the none provider is the provider that even if you don't have internet and you don't need any authorization and you don't want to share any information, so you can choose none provider and do your operations from there. So the none that is one of the provider that we use for our Cypress tests. So for some E2E tests that are very simple in nature, that don't require any authorization feature. So what it does is like it's breaking here where it is trying to log to none provider. So since the provider is hosted at port, I mean, this whole operation is going through a proxy server which directs localhost 3000 to localhost 9081, and you know the 9081 should be giving you the acknowledgement of whether you have logged in correctly or not. So there has been a discussion thread where the problem is being discussed, like to solve this specific case where where there is some certified, I mean see this issue, there is some problem with the proxy itself, like Cypress proxy doesn't work with version 9. So we might we thought like this is our problem with the Cypress 9 itself, and moving to Cypress 10.2 where I mean, one of the contributor or maintainer from the Cypress team suggested that move to Cypress 10.2. So that's why we moved to Cypress 10. And later we realized that we have, I mean, Cypress have released latest version, that is 12. So we have moved to Cypress version 12 now, but still the same problem is there. So someone was suggesting like this problem is only with the Electron browser, and that's why the PR is also addressing that change and using the Chrome browser to run the Cypress test in headless mode. But I mean, we are still getting the problem despite like making multiple efforts to solve the problem. So I think it still needs some more research. So that's the current progress that I have to put forward in this call. So we have right now we have successfully migrated to version 12. Our integration tests are passing successfully, all the integration tests. There is only one problem with the proxy server, and that's working locally, but not in the CI environment. And the issue is somewhat I mean, directly related to what Cypress has to provide to us. So might be there need to change some configurations in our current CI or something else. So yeah. that's something not yet fully completed, but needs more attention and research. Yeah, anything from you, Gaurav or Mario?
And port localhost 3000 needed to be used and not 9081.
Yes, because 3000, I mean, 9081 can also be used. There is no problem in using 9081 as of now, but I mean, 3000 is our development server, and whenever we test our changes locally, so we assume that we assume to run it on the port 3000 to, just consume the features of hot reloading and instantaneous update of UI, etc. So that's why we use it.
I mentioned it in case it's potentially of help. Like, think about it.
Yeah,
think if
maybe it may help, but we might require to change some Cypress code also, because when you see 3000 is a dev environment and 9081 is a prod environment. So when moving from dev to prod, so the class names are compacted so that it don't take enough amount of resources or characters. So whatever class we are using to identify an object like .muixyz, it would have been converted to something very short like JSS. So that's the problem. We might definitely go try to move to 9081 and see if we can get some progress or not. So yeah, that's definitely a topic of some more research and some more focus needs to be going there. I'll add your comment here to use 9081 instead of 3000.
Yeah, thank you, Abhi. So, Pratik, you are up next with your topic, made settings consistent with UI.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen, just 1 second. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this was the issue created by Pranav Singh. It states that the settings page, when in the environment, when setting the environment, the add cluster button is placed over here, while in the whole UI of the in the whole Meshery UI, all the buttons are placed over the paper. So I addressed this issue in my PR, and this was the result. I just shifted the button of add cluster in the environment above the paper. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, I reviewed the PR. It looks good to me. So just one feedback. I think Pranav can answer that. So Pranav, you raised an issue regarding the delete icon, not similar with the UI. So
Actually, we discussed this in a couple of calls back that the we would rather require a mock-up for it before implementation, because the current implementation looks good considering we have different slides, different smaller windows, and add cluster is specific to environment. So we cannot really keep it outside of paper. So we wanted a little mock-up for that before implementation. So I think Pratik missed that call.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And just for my part, I can't think of anything better than what Pratik has done. It's like, well, yeah, and this is something that hopefully everybody on the call, Hardik, I'll call out your name because I've asked you a couple of questions in Zoom and in Slack in case you want to engage in the UI. Now's your chance. Does anybody see where the add cluster button is inside of this settings screen? that button, add cluster, it's only relevant to the environment tab. So you might want to only show it, or the user might only expect to see it when they're on the environment tab. Okay, and so consequently, it's sort of awkwardly placed where it is. And if the user navigates to a different tab, they don't see that button. Okay, and so the call to action here is, or the request is, to figure out where to better place that. And Parthic has moved it out from this card and placed it on the paper, so to speak, up top. So Parthic, if you were to go back to your implementation so that people can see that.
Yeah, this thing?
Yeah, perfect. So you moved it out. And that button, it remains only visible when the user has environment selected. And I don't know, for myself, I'm at a loss. Like, I think it is certainly more consistent, that placement right there is certainly more consistent with the placement of similar buttons on the rest of the pages, the rest of the UI. So that's great. That consistency leads to an intuitive user experience. If it is only displayed respectively when the user is on the environment tab, then the user won't be trying to add a cluster when they're sitting on the metrics tab because it's not visible. So okay, I don't know. That's about as far as my thought process goes. It's like, well, when they're on that tab, they'll see that button, and maybe that's a better placement. But it'd be great to hear from others who might have different suggestions. Because if there aren't different suggestions, I would, what do you say? I would support moving forward with merging Parthic's PR.
Are there more buttons in other tabs or not?
No, only there is one button, the add cluster button in the environment tab.
Okay. Then I think we can hide when we move away from the environment tab.
Yeah. When we will move away from the environment tab to, let's say, the adapters tab, the add cluster button will hide automatically.
So for some of you that are pondering this, it's certainly helpful if you have Meshery UI up and you can kind of look across the different pages and get a feel for what feels right. Anyway, so we'll leave this PR open for a couple more hours. Not hearing anything, I suspect it'll get merged.
Yeah, thank you, Pratik. Thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you.
Wait a second. Is it Parthic or Pratik?
It's Pratik.
Oh, Parthic.
Yes.
Yeah, but not Pratik. There's a different Pratik here.
No, it is Pratik.
Oh.
Yeah.
So by the way, you're not the same contributor that we spent time with a couple of meetings ago to help you get your environment set up? Or are you?
No. Actually, I raised the issue of environment setting in the Slack channel, in the Meshery channel. Yeah.
Cool, good deal. That's confusing. There's a Pratik Singh. You darn Singh.
Okay.
I tell you what. Yeah, cool. Anyway, that's why it's confused. So good. Yeah, you're Parthic, not
Yes.
Pratik.
Yes.
Cool. Great job. Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik. So before we conclude, I would like, so we are 4 minutes over. So before we conclude, I would like to say, like, do use Discuss forum, grab your account and post questions, topics, anything related to coding or non-coding stuff that you have. Let me share the link of Discuss in chat. And do subscribe to Layer 5's community calendar to join the rest of the meetings. I guess that was all for today. So thank you all for joining Meshery Development Meeting. We'll meet you next week, same time, same place.
Thanks, Gaurav. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.